In this lecture, we're going to create a group policy object for disabled users that's going to log them out as soon as they log into the workstation. So kind of as a backup plan if you forget to disable the user account. Now this is a little bit silly and it's not really a 100% complete safeguard, as there's ways you can work around this, but it demonstrates group policy and logon scripts well. So we're going to go ahead and do it. So I'm in my domain controller here and I'm going to click Tools. And I'm going to select Group Policy Management. Okay. And I'm going to go up here to Disabled Users. And I'm going to hit the drop down there. You can see there's nothing in here. I'm going to right click and say Create GPO in this domain and link it here. Now we're going to call this GPO log off. Okay. All right. So there we go. Now two things just happened. So a group policy object was created and it was linked to this domain. So the object actually exists here. This lists all our group policy objects, but it's linked up here. So if we delete this, it doesn't actually delete the group policy object still down here, it just unlinks it. So if we want to relink it, we just click link an existing GPO and select log off. Okay. So what we want to do is right click on this and select edit. Okay, now we'll hold on for a second and hit the Windows key and open Notepad. And we're going to type in one command, log off. Okay, now I can demonstrate this if I pop over to my Windows 10 VM. Wrong button there. Let's see, Windows 10 virtual machine. Okay, so if I pop this open, right here, there we go, and I log into this workstation. And if I open command prompt, and if I type in log off and press enter, guess what? It signs us out. Okay, so you can create a batch file that will do any command that you type in here is the same as typing it into command prompt. So we're going to save this and we're going to select all files. So this PC and D drive, group policy, and we'll right click again and select new folder. And we're going to call this folder scripts. Okay. Now we'll open that folder and we're going to call this script log off dot, and then the extension is BAT for batch file. Okay. And then we'll hit save. All right. So now we have a script that we can open here. And if we go to group policy scripts, we can see we have the log off script here. Now, if I double click this, it'll log us off this workstation. So I don't want to do that. So I'm going to leave that, close that window. And I'm going to go under user configuration and I'm going to click policies, Windows settings, scripts, log on and log off. And we want this as soon as the user logs in, we want it to run this script that's going to log the user off. So we'll right click on log on and we'll select properties. And this is where all of our scripts will be listed that are going to execute when the user logs in. Now we're going to click add and we're going to click browse. And we're going to go ahead and do backslash WDC111. Now we're going to select open on the script. And we don't need any script parameters, so we're going to hit OK. And we can see that our script is listed there. So we're going to hit apply and we're going to click OK. So now we're done configuring this group policy object, so we can close this. So here we can see that this will apply to any authenticated user in the domain. Okay. So you have to be an authenticated user to log in. And if you log into the workstation, then this group policy is going to get applied and it's going to run this startup script. So now what we need to do is get out of group policy, hit tools, and open Active Directory users and computers. Okay, we're going to click on our wudemy.local and we're going to select manage users and domain users. And what we want to do is we want to drag Bobby into disabled users. Now I just kind of want to show this to you side by side so it'll kind of click for you. So I'm going to click Tools, Group Policy Management, and I'm going to pull up my AD over there on that side and my group policy on this side. Okay, so we can see here that we have a very similar layout. And it's not exactly the same, but it's close. And we can see all of our OUs here. Now notice you don't see any of the containers. This built-in is a container, computers is a container, etc. So we have the disabled users OU, and we have this log off group and we have this log off group policy object that is applied to this domain, this OU. Now, if we click here, we have Bobby Gooten inside of this OU. So Bobby Gooten is going to get this group policy object, and this group policy object would apply to any sub OUs that we had underneath it. Okay, so let's go ahead and close out of here, and now we're ready to test this. So let's right Control F, and we'll get out of the domain controller, and I'm going to bring up my Windows 10, full screen this. We're going to hit right Control and Delete, and all right, we already have Bobby Gooten typed in, so we'll go ahead and type in our user password, and we'll click OK. So it's going to bring us to the desktop, and then it should sign us out. There it is. Okay, so we can try it again. Try to log in. I'm not pushing any buttons, and it takes us right back to the login screen. Okay, now notice we didn't even disable the account. So this is kind of a fun way to make a secondary wall if a user, say for example, if you forget to disable the account. Now, of course, you would still want to go ahead and disable the account. You wouldn't want to just rely on this because I'm sure there's ways you could get around it. So what you'd want to do is go ahead, right click, disable account, hit OK. And then as we saw earlier in the previous lectures, if you try to log in at this point, it will say the account is disabled. It has to refresh the policy. Oh my goodness, what? It let us in? Oh my goodness, I have found a loophole. Look at this. Watch, we'll sign out. It's good old Microsoft for you. Right, Control Delete. I type in the password. Your account has been disabled. Please see your system administrator. Okay, so you don't ever want to race with someone. So if someone's walking up to the computer, oh, I'm going to disable their account, it probably will take a second. So the policy is often refreshed when the user logs in and when the user logs out. So in this case, what just happened was the policy was refreshed when the user logged out of the account. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to hit right Control F. We'll get out of the full screen mode, and we're going to bring up our domain controller, and we're going to enable the account. And let's just see how long it takes before we can log in. Enter. And it looks like it's going to let us in right away. But the script's still there, so it's signing us out. All right? So kind of funny to mess around with. All right, so we're going to go to Manage Users, and we're going to drag this user to the Domain Admins OU. All right, and we're going to try to log in again. And it will let us sign in, but will it sign us out automatically? No, it looks like it's not going to. Okay, so that's an example of how you can create a script and apply it when a user logs in. All right, so just to recap, we wrote the script, we stuck it in the group policy share on the domain controller, so WDC111 and group policy and script. So this is a folder, a shared drive that we created earlier. We know it's readable by anyone on the domain, and we applied that in group policy to the disabled users OU, and we moved our user into that OU. So that group policy object was applied to everyone inside that OU. Okay, so that's a recap on how it works, and now you know how to apply group policy objects, and you know how to set up logon scripts. Now it would work exactly the same for logoff scripts. So if you wanted to write a script, if you're good with writing scripts and you wanted to write a batch file to do some kind of process when a user logs out of the computer, you can write that and you'll just mount it in the same way that we mounted the logon script. All right, so I'll see you in the next lecture.